Good morning from Sea Salter Old Church in Kent, and we're here today to find the final resting place of a horror legend, Peter Cushing. Well, this is a fascinating place. It took me a while to find it actually, but I got there in the end, and going by what I've read and I've looked at online, because I wasn't 100% sure this is the right place, but going by what I've read and seen online, I'm pretty sure it is now. So we'll have a little look around. I'll tell you quite a long tale actually about Peter Cushing, and then we'll go and see if we can find his final resting place. Peter Wilton Cushing was born in Kenley, then a district in the English county of Surrey, on 26th of May 1913. The Cushing family, consisting of his father, George Edward Cushing, his mother, Nellie Marie Cushing, née King, and Peter, lived in Dulwich during the First World War, and in 1918 moved to Purley. In his infancy, Cushing twice developed pneumonia, and once what was then known as double pneumonia. The latter was often fatal during that period, although he survived. He began his early education in Dulwich, South London, before attending the Shoreham Grammar School in Shoreham by Sea on the Sussex coast between Brighton and Worthing. Cushing wanted to enter the acting profession after school, but his father opposed the idea, despite the theatrical background of several of his family members. Instead, seizing upon Cushing's interest in art and drawing, he got his son a job as a surveyor's assistant in the drawing department of the Colston and Purley Urban District Council's surveying office during the summer of 1933. Cushing hated the job, where he remained for 3 years. Cushing eventually applied for a scholarship at the Guildhall School of Music and Drama in London. His first audition was before the actor Alan Ainsworth, who was so unimpressed with Cushing's manner of speech that he rejected him outright. Cushing continued to pursue a scholarship, writing 21 letters to the school, until actor and theatre manager Bill Fraser finally agreed to meet Cushing in 1935, simply so he could ask him in person to stop writing. During that meeting, Cushing was given a walk-on part as a courier in that night's production of J.B. Priestley's Cornelius. This marked his professional stage debut, although he had no lines and did little more than stand on the stage behind other actors. Afterward, he was granted a scholarship and given odd jobs around the theatre. In 1939, his father bought him a one-way ticket to Hollywood, where he moved with only £50 to his name. He was cast in a bit part as the King's Messenger in the film The Man in the Iron Mask, which became his official film debut. After this, he learned that Hal Roach was seeking an English actor for a comedy film starring Laurel and Hardy. Cushing sought and was cast in the role. Cushing appeared only briefly in A Chump at Oxford, 1940, and his scenes took just 1 week to film, but he was proud to work with whom he called two of the greatest comedians the cinema has ever produced. Cushing continued to work in a few Hollywood engagements, but eventually grew homesick and decided to return home to England. Though it was the height of World War II, Cushing was unable to serve on active duty due to some childhood injuries, so a friend suggested that he should tour and entertain the troops. It was on one of these tours that he met Violet Helen Beck, a former dancer. They fell in love and were married on 10th of April 1943. Cushing struggled to find work over the next few years, though he did appear in several small roles in radio, theatre and film. During this discouraging time, his wife encouraged him to seek roles in television, which was beginning to develop in England. The first role he landed was in J.B. Priestley's Eden End, which was televised in December 1951. Over the next 3 years, he became one of the most active and famous names in British television and was considered a pioneer in British television drama. During this period he didn't get many film roles, as producers were often resentful of television stars for drawing audiences away from cinema. He did, however, still land a few film roles, including the films The Black Knight, 1954, The End of the Affair, 1955, and Magic Fire, also 1955. During a brief quiet spell following Cushing's television work, he read in trade publications about Hammer, a low-budget production company seeking to adapt Mary Shelley's horror novel Frankenstein into a new film. Cushing had his agent, John Redway, inform the company of his interest in playing the protagonist, Baron von Frankenstein. Cushing was cast in the lead role of The Curse of Frankenstein, 1957, marking the first of 22 films he made for Hammer. The film was an overnight success, bringing both Cushing and Christopher Lee worldwide fame. The two men continued to work together in many films for Hammer, and their names became synonymous with the company. Cushing reprised the role of Baron Victor Frankenstein in 5 sequels: Revenge of Frankenstein, 1958, The Evil Frankenstein, 1963, Frankenstein Created Woman, 1967, Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed, 1969, and Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell, 1974. When Hammer sought to adapt Bram Stoker's vampire novel Dracula, they cast Cushing to play the vampire's adversary, Dr. Van Helsing. The film Dracula was released in 1958, where he once again played opposite Christopher Lee. This was followed by The Brides of Dracula, 1960, Dracula Prince of Darkness, 1966, Dracula AD 1972 in 1972, The Satanic Rites of Dracula 1974, and The Legend of the Seven Vampires, also 1974. He also appeared in The Abominable Snowman 1957, The Mummy 1959, The Hounds of the Baskervilles 1959, and the list goes on and on. He also appeared in the original Star Wars film, which was released in 1977, where he played Grand Moff Tarkin. Cushing had a variety of interests outside of acting, including collecting and battling model soldiers. He also loved games and practical jokes. He would often draw and paint watercolours, which he did especially often in his later years. In 1971, Cushing's wife died of emphysema, and he often said he felt his life ended when hers did. In 1972, he was quoted in the Radio Times as having said, "Since Helen passed on, I can't find anything. The heart quite simply has gone out of everything. Time is interminable. The loneliness is almost unbearable, and the only thing that keeps me going is the knowledge that my dear Helen and I will be reunited again someday. To join Helen is my only ambition." In May 1982, Cushing was diagnosed with prostate cancer. He was rushed to Kent and Canterbury Hospital. Doctors determined he had 12 to 18 months to live. Although his health continued to gradually decline, Cushing lived another 12 years without any operative treatment or chemotherapy. In August 1944, Cushing entered himself into Pilgrim's Hospice in Canterbury, where he died on the 11th of August, aged 81 years. Well, it was a lovely, lovely little baby church. Hang on, let's turn around, get this angle from behind me. That is it. It's more like a chapel than a church. But we know for a fact that Helen, his wife, is buried here. Now, it does actually say on the internet that you can't really read any inscription off of a stone anymore. Now, there's a lot of mystery surrounding where Peter is buried. But for me, there's only one place he will be, and that was with his wife, who he loved so much. But I'm literally right on the area, because it says online that her stone is on the north edge of the church, and that's exactly where I'm standing now. There's only a small amount of stones here, and there's only 3 that you can't read anything on, so it's going to be one of these 3. So I'll quickly flip you around, we'll have a look, and then I'll tell you a little bit more, which I've picked up online. which basically confirms, well not confirms, but more or less convinces me that he is buried here with his wife. Right, well this is the north wall of the church, and as you can see it's only a tiny little wall. These stones here you can clearly read what's on them. It's none of these. So the only ones it can be are one of these. It's going to be one of these stones here. I don't think it's that one. It could possibly be one of these two. But what we'll do is we'll focus on a blank one. And we'll say that this is where he is buried. Now, I can't be 100% sure. But he's buried along this wall here somewhere. Well, Helen certainly is. Well, when I was doing my research on Peter, it said on one thing that, because there used to be a stone here with a name clearly marked on it, but Peter had that removed because he was quite alarmed one day when he came to visit her stone and he found that someone else had put some flowers on it. Now he didn't like that, so he had the stone removed. It also says online they used to come here often and sit on an old wire bench and just while away the hours while he sat with his wife. Now if I flip you around quickly, you can see over here there is an old wire bench where my bag is sitting on it at the moment. Now this is very possibly, in fact more than likely, the actual bench that Peter used to sit on. And if you look over there, that's the north wall of the church, and that's where that stone he just told you about. But also, when the actual minister here was interviewed, he was asked if it's possible that her remains were removed. And he stated that if that had been the case, because he knows that she was buried here, and he stated, hang on, let me turn you around again. Right, when interviewed, he stated that if there'd been, the body had been removed, there would have been an exhumation order. And he stated quite categorically that there's not been an exhumation order, or if there is one, he doesn't know where it is, and it should be kept in the church records. But there is no such record of an exhumation of Helen. So she is buried here, 100%. And before I go, let me quickly read something to you, which basically convinces me. I'm going to go and sit on this bench quickly, and I'm going to read something to you, which convinces me, and I hope it convinces you also, that he is definitely buried here. Right, I'm currently sat on Peter's bench, and I'm just going to read something to you quickly, and this is why I think he is buried here. Right, so it's a letter which was written to Peter by his wife Helen shortly before she passed away. And it reads, "Do not pine for me, my beloved Peter, because that will cause unrest. Do not be hasty to leave this world, because you will not go until you have lived the life you have been given. And remember, we will meet again when the time is right. That is my promise." Now you tell me, after receiving that, would he be buried anywhere else other than with his wife, who he loved so much? They were basically inseparable in life, so I think they're probably inseparable in death. Right, well I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, maybe even consider subscribing, and don't forget to hit that notification bell. Well, that's it for me, Darren, from Sea Salter Old Church near Whitstable in Kent. I hope to see you again soon, so bye bye for now.